Hey, singers, welcome to the Sing Better Fast podcast. This one is so exciting for me today because we're doing something new. I'm bringing on signed recorded artists, and today our first artist is Gordon Tittsworth, one of my students and good friend of mine. But it is also so unique because we had a cluster in making this work. Gordon couldn't get his mic to work when we were recording, so then we did a conference call, and then my mic wouldn't work. So Ben, being the tech guru he is, he's recording two different places. He's doing a phone conference and via Skype, and he's going to piece this together. So you won't miss a beat. So today we want to talk to Gordon and learn all about you, Gordon. I don't know anything about you. I just paid him to come on this thing. No, I've known him for many years. So Gordon, won't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing now? Then we'll get into some questions.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I'm actually the vocalist, founder of Images of Eden, and we just got signed to Pavement Entertainment, and a couple of weeks ago released our fourth album called Soul Rise worldwide. And I mean, so far, I mean, things have already kind of exceeded our expectations as far as just how everything's been going. And yeah, that's what we're up to.
Yep, exactly. And I love this album because, correct me if I'm wrong, I may be wrong. Is this the first one you recorded since we started doing lessons?
Yes, it is. It's the one that when we started doing lessons, I was in the process of writing this thing, so it just took forever and a day to get this thing to be pieced together. But yeah.
Well, good. So this podcast is really about, Ben and I do so many of these about vocal health and the singer's mindset and staying healthy on the road. But you're proof in the pudding, man. You really are. You're a success story. Because I don't even really remember how you found me. I think you mentioned another vocal coach told you about me, but you came to me, and I'm just going to flat out say it. You were kind of a wreck when you came to me.
Absolutely.
So why don't you tell me what was going on?
Yeah, I'm going to get really long-winded here, but I think it's kind of important. By the time I got to you, I'd been singing for a very long time. I've been singing since I was 16. So basically, in a couple of weeks, that will be 30 years. It was 2011. It was I had gotten sick. I got laryngitis, and I'd been sick before. You know how it is. You snap out of it, and you get back to normal pretty quickly. Maybe a little bit of a ramp up, but this one was a little bit different. I got sick, and for some reason, my voice just stopped working. It just wouldn't work. And I figured, okay, well, let me give it a couple of more weeks. Maybe it's just I'm not healed yet. A couple of weeks later, it still wouldn't work. And like I said, I've been sick plenty of times, never had a problem, but it started to freak me out. So, I started trying to see what I could do, and all I was doing was straining, and nothing was working. So went to the ENT because I figured, okay, great, maybe I've got, a polyp or something. ENT gave me a clean bill of health. I still, for a while, tried. And I actually tried for about 2.5 years, but I struggled. And it got to a point where I was about to throw in the towel because everything I had tried was not working. So I Googled some vocal coaches, and I figured, all right, this is my last step. I said, because if this doesn't work, I'm just going to sing death metal. That's, it's going to be what it's going to be. And so I actually reached out to Judy Rodman, and Judy Rodman, was listening to some of my stuff, and I kind of explained to, what I was doing, and she said, listen, Gordon, I can help you. However, I think I got the guy for you. And she referred me to you. So she said, you're a rock/metal vocalist and vocal coach. So I said, this might be what I want to do, and this might be the guy for the job. So I did a little homework on you. I tell people this, and we all have a laugh. I said, as soon as I saw the guy shatter glass on Mythbusters and Dr. Oz, I said, this is the guy. That's it. And so you and I talked, and, I mean, I was basically at the end of my rope, man, about ready to throw in the towel. And you said, listen, I don't think you've got much to worry about. I think I can get this, back on track. And we scheduled essentially 5 or 6 sessions. And you gave me the tools that I needed, and obviously it took me a while, but I don't even want to say I got back on track. My goal was to be able to get to where I was before. Where I was before was I was pretty happy with it. But okay, a couple of things I learned that I was taught incorrectly before. They said, as a human male, you will always have to use falsetto when you get to a certain pitch. And so I kind of just, accepted that. And then that was one of the first misnomers that you told me. You said, no, you will not have to use falsetto. There's no real difference. You should be able to use full voice all the way up into the dog squealers. And believe it or not, it's healthier for your voice because you're not producing as much air and your voice is stronger. So I thought, wow, if I could, hit those dog squealers in full voice, then I have far exceeded where I wanted to be. That was the first thing you taught me. Then you gave me some tools to get me on track. Well, I'm going to fast forward a couple of years because it took me a while to really kind of get to where I want to be. And now I can honestly say, after so many years, I'm exactly where I want to be. I mean, it's a work in progress and it's maintenance. But the biggest problem was I didn't think I'd be able to get this range up to where it was. And also, I had to unlearn some seriously bad habits. Now, Jaime, tell me if I'm wrong here, but in your opinion, you've worked with singers who are just starting. You've worked with singers who have been vocalists for a long time. I found it was a lot more difficult for myself because, I had almost 25 years worth of doing it one way, and I had to unlearn habits of 20-something years, and a couple of them were bad habits. And so I almost felt like I started in the negative, and I had to basically take a lot of time to unlearn these habits before I could get to learning them the correct way. Have you kind of noticed that?
Yeah, a minute ago when see the funny thing about doing these podcasts is we always do them on video. So I'm looking at Ben, I'm like, thumbs up. I'm like, yeah, wait a minute, Ben, wait a minute. Because Gordon's going to say, I wanted to get back to where I was, but I exceeded my expectations. So then that's what threw you off, Gordon, because you're watching me. And I wasn't telling you to hold up, but
yeah,
you're
just don't moon the camera.
Yeah. Oh, dang it. Well, there goes my next part. But you're absolutely right. Going back, I remember some of our lessons, and there was a couple. I knew you would get it, but I could tell a couple like you're like, I'm never going to get this. But it's time and diligence and patience, and that's I hate to say it, it's a rare quality. I know that all singers can get it, but it's just so hard. Just put in the time, and that's exactly what you did.
Well, let me tell you this, because I can honestly say, not getting back to where I was, where I was is like about half of where I am now. I never thought in a million years throughout the whole course of my music career that I would ever be able to do what I can do now. And honestly, the only reason that I'm able to do this is because I had my issue, man. It was a blessing in disguise. And I was, and when I connected with you, I know that wasn't by chance, man, because, talk about far exceeding. When I warm up now, I spent a lot of time strengthening my voice, but when I warm up now, it doesn't take much. I've done a lot of things to strengthen it over the years, but I've finally gotten to the point, brother, and I have you to thank for this. I do a few lip bubbles. I got the pocket box. Yep, there it is. Got the pocket box, and I can tell the difference. Just a couple of sirens with that. You already feel it's sort of almost like a vocal cord massage. So it doesn't take me much time to warm up. I do sirens. I do E's. I stretch it all the way up, and I used to take about a half an hour to 40 minutes to warm up before. It's literally like 5 or so minutes now. And a big habit that I broke was I was giving way too much air, way too much breath. What I've found, I barely need any breath at all. And the key is tightening the stomach, bearing down and tightening. And I can hit a dog squealer and not even think anything of it now. But that's definitely part of what I do. I do sirens and kind of get that strong. But in a million years, I never thought I'd be able to do this and have this kind of range. I think I don't know if I could say I doubled my range, but I at least added about 40% on there. And, it's just been unbelievable. I've worked very hard to get to this point, but just, I will tell anybody who's listening, and I do tell people this, everything you taught me totally works. I'm a weird situation, man. I'm one where I couldn't do it myself. So I'd had experience. I had a broken voice. I was at the end of my rope. You got me out of that, and you allowed me and gave me the tools to soar like way beyond where I thought I'd ever be. So I will say anyone who was ever even remotely looking to improve their voice, improve their power, fix a problem they've got, Jaime Vendera is the guy that you need to get in touch with. I will say this every day. One of the biggest blessings, man. I cannot thank you enough.
I'm humbled by that. That ain't even what this podcast, this one is about. I appreciate it, but you did the work. And what I liked hearing a minute ago is when you said your warm-up time has changed. Now, it's funny, Ben had just put out a 10-minute warm-up program. I don't remember who this goofball was, but someone had said something about, well, that's sacrilegious. You can't warm up in 10 minutes. You're going to ruin singers. And I'm like, you know what? If you really understand voice and you know what you're doing, every individual is different. I've seen singers warm up in 5 minutes, and I've seen them who still understand this technique like to take their time and spend 45 minutes. I think it's an individual thing. It's just the fact that we want to get the blood flow to the chords, and even in wrapping that up, it's just to get you prepared for the stage, which you're spending a lot of time on now, since this new record's come out, which I love, by the way. And I hope you don't smack me when I say this, but there was a band called Fifth Angel out of the 80s.
Love them.
Dude, yeah, you know what? It's like, because I know, like, you hear the Queens like comparisons. I don't. You're in that operatic metal style, so of course you're going to get the comparisons. But man, like the music, like a melodic. There's a band called Spiral Architect. It's just the musicianship in this band is phenomenal. Or like I know that Fifth Angel was a little more 80s glam kind of thing, but man, like Ted Pilot was so powerful, and he just pulled you in. That's what I'm hearing in your voice. You know, a lot of that. I'm hearing higher notes on this album than the other stuff that you put out, and I'm like, I'm a little prideful because I'm humble, but I'm like, I had a part of that. So, but you did an excellent job, and the album sounds phenomenal. And now you're opening for Jeff Tate and for Stryper. It's insane.
Oh yeah. It's a dream come true, man. We know it's kind of funny when I track, and this will kind of blow your mind too. When I track the vocals for Soul Rise, I still wasn't quite where I am now. Now this is kind of funny, but the next album is already written, and over the course of the next 6 months, we're going to be kind of piecing that together in between doing promo and touring and playing shows. But let me tell you, I've already got a couple of the songs written, and I mean, I can actually, for the first time ever, utilize my entire range, and I can't wait. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna probably bug you and send you a couple of MP3s when it's ready, just so you can hear. But absolutely, man, I would never have been able to do this without I got so angry when I got sick, but that sickness was the biggest blessing in disguise because I would never be where I am now.
You know, it's funny. I don't know if you remember this. Gordon and I are really close, and I don't know. It's maybe in the last year. You remember me calling you, and I get depressed too about where I've had the accident and got the glass in my voice. And I remember you saying to me, Jaime, don't you realize that this is, in a way, is a blessing? You got to look at it like that. Look at what you're going to look at, how you finally reached out to Dr. Vokes and this Pocket Vokes was developed, and how you're going to overcome this and how you're going to be able to take that and return that to singers everywhere, your journey, which is
right.
Funny because I'm writing a book about it now.
Exactly, and that's yeah. I knew that when you have an issue, and it's an issue, it's a brutal one now, but that's how God works, brother. He allows us to go through these things so we can learn from them, so that when a student comes to you and says, "Man, I had a problem," and had something similar to you, you can say, "I know what you need to do." When most vocal coaches would say, "You're done. Sorry, brother."
Yeah, no, absolutely. You gotta have that success mindset, and you gotta drive it. I know Ben's looking at me like he might have a question or two. I know he's wanting to know what you do on the road. I'm going to pass it over to him because I talk a lot.
Like
so
me.
Ben,
Okay,
yeah,
well,
what
yeah,
do you
no,
get?
so I was just letting you guys do your thing because, I mean, I'm kind of new here. Gordon, I think this is the first time we've actually spoken. But yeah, and so for anyone listening, I'm kind of the marketing guy. I didn't give him a script, that whole bit. He's just sharing his experience there. But yeah, so one question, Gordon, is what do you do on the road to take care of your voice? What are the main 3-5 things that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I got to tell you this before I have a big show, because I mean, right now most of our shows are based out in Phoenix, so I'm flying from the East Coast, getting up at 3 a.m. I'm long-winded too, Jamie. I get up at 3 a.m., fly 3 time zones, different climate, dry heat, go right to practice after being jet lagged for 3 hours, rehearse. Next day rehearse again, get to the gig, do the gig, come home. So what I try to do is number one, I sing every single day if I can. I mean, I'm at least good for about 5 days a week. I try to do 6 days. There's one day where I just kind of take completely off. But and when I sing, I used to sing with, do sirens, do a lot, the Voice RX and everything. I really don't, I know I probably should keep up with the Voice RX, but right now I feel so strong with everything that it doesn't take me much. But what I actually do is every single day I sing, and I don't sing for 30 minutes. I'm good for about 45 to an hour, depending on how I'm feeling. So every single day I keep extremely strong, and I sing the set that I'm going to be doing for the next show, regardless of what it is. I sing it a couple of times if I have time. I make sure that I after I do my warm-up, I have a couple of key songs, about 5 to 10, that I kind of jump around on that really helps different areas of my range. A super high song, a mid-range song, a little bit of a lower song, something that's got a little bit of everything. You just kind of get everything worked out and get all the muscles open, get them strong. So I sing as much as possible before a show. And when I leave to go to play the show, first and foremost, stay as hydrated as possible, drink as much water as you can possibly take in, especially being out in the dry heat out west. And then by the time we get to rehearsal, I mean, my voice is strong. I've been really giving it my all, for every single day. Really, by the time I get to the rehearsal room after being on the plane, I do some lip bubbles and got the pocket. This time I'm bringing the pocket Vokes with me. Lip bubbles, pocket Vokes, and we just start, and I just, that's it. That's all I really need to do. And the reason I say that's all I really need to do is because I've spent the last several years doing everything else. So, and Jamie, I remembered something that you told me very early on. You said, listen, once you get to a point to where your voice is strong, then it's just basically maintenance there. We want to get to the point to where we don't have to spend 30 minutes a day doing these scales and doing, doing everything that we do just to get to the point of being strong. Once we're strong, and then we've got our key warm-ups, obviously it's going to be a little bit different for everybody, but we've got our key warm-ups, and then we're there. And that's kind of where I've sort of arrived, and it's been a long road, but I feel I don't like to miss days when it comes to singing now.
Yeah, that's what I tell my touring art. Like I'm assigned to touring artists, a lot of them, because I know how boring transcending tones and sirens can get. If it's a guy or a girl who's like gigging on the weekends, then yeah, I want them to keep up the exercises. But when you're out touring and singing, really, that's what you're doing it for. You're not doing it to sit there and do 30 to an hour of sirens and this and that. As long as you get to the point, like I said, you're strong and you can warm up and you're singing your set list, then you're good to go. Which I've been guilty of that too. I've kind of, it's funny, I was talking to I'll have to tell Daniel so he can watch this. Buddy of mine, Daniel Formica, as a coach, I swear to you, it was like last week, I wake up and he's screaming at me. It was in my dream. This is no lie. He's like, you need to start singing more. Come on, get up on your lazy butt. And since the accident, like I don't sing as much as I used to, and I'm writing stuff. But I remember us having a similar conversation years ago, and he said his voice was kind of, it wasn't that he had a situation like me where he had damage, but it was like not in the zone. And then I remember talking a few months later, and Daniel said, you know what? I figured it out, Jamie. He said, I ain't been singing. And he started singing like an hour and a half every day. And I'm like, oh my God. So I texted him last week and I said, thanks a lot. You probably a few curse words or something, screaming at me in my dream. And we laughed back and forth. He said, well, I'm glad I could help. And I'll start singing. So you're right. I mean, that's the golden nugget that we want. We want to sing. We don't want to spend time on these exercises. We want to, that's to get you there and build the strength and then do what you love.
And to add to that too, I look at it like this. I look at it as if I am playing a show every day, because I'm in my vocal booth at full volume for about, on average 45 minutes, sometimes longer. And so as far as I'm concerned, I'm giving it that all every single day. So I do feel a little bit of a drop if I have to, leave town or do something where I can't actually sing. But yeah, I try to keep up with it. So yeah, that I would consider myself kind of in that sort of almost touring mode.
I like that the main thing you were talking about to prepare for performances and touring is singing. And I don't know, there kind of seems for some singers this idea that, oh no, I'm going to go perform, so I better rest my voice for a day or two before and after. But to me it sounds like if you make sure that you're singing in all these different environments after getting off the airplane early in the morning, dry room, like low humidity, et cetera, what you're really doing is you're building your confidence and resilience, being able to perform in a wide variety of settings. Whereas the alternative is just, I'm only going to perform in the ideal conditions, and if it's a little too dry in the room, I'm going to, skip the high notes or, whatever. And so to me that, I don't know, I would almost say it's the difference between having sort of like being afraid of the different environments versus having confidence in your abilities in the different environments. So that's kind of the thing that comes to mind. And then you said a couple other things. You said there was a period where you had to work really hard on all the exercises, and then after you get to a certain point, you just have to maintain it. And I just want to say for our listeners, and I know this isn't your case because you're always doing stuff and out there singing, writing music and stuff. I think for some people the idea of, I'm just going to work hard for a little bit and then I'll be done. And then they get complacent. So I don't want that. I know that's not what you were saying or that you don't do that, but that's just for the listener. You still do have to maintain it, but maintain doesn't mean necessarily do 5 minutes once a week. I mean, maintaining it involves time, as you said. You try to do 5-6 days a week, 45 minutes. That's awesome. And then the other thing you were talking about is, something that came to mind as you were talking is, for the last, let's see here, I think for the last week, I've been singing every single day for about 2 hours a day. And my voice this is the best my voice has felt in my whole life. And, just a couple of weeks before I started doing this, I remember feeling like, my voice is terrible. Like, everything seems to affect me. If I wake up, I get half an hour less sleep than usual. I wake up and my voice is terrible. Or, if I don't have, a gallon of water a day, then I feel like the sky is falling. And as you and Jamie were both saying, it's the singing. What gets you out of the funk a lot of the time is just doing it. Like, you might have a few days where you're kind of like, I don't know if this is working, this is a little rough. But after just a few days, a week, 2 weeks, whatever it is on an individual basis, you start to notice pretty significant improvement just from that, barring any, super major medical issue. So yeah, that's just what I had to say there.
Oh, I'm going to give you a long answer on those because I definitely want to talk about all three of those. Yeah. First thing I want to do is your middle point. Yeah, I definitely want to clarify that. Back in the day when I was building my strength and my range and whatnot, the bulk of what I was doing when I was singing was strength building, was exercises, was sirens, was transcending tones, was all the stuff that Jamie had given me. So what had happened is once it got to the point to where I really felt that my entire range had gotten really strong, the difference was instead of doing these things solely and then spending a little bit of time actually singing, most of my time was spent singing to maintain the strength that I had built. Now, I'm glad you brought that up because when I'm singing now, and Jamie, one thing, also the physical stretches and all, and with your neck and your back and all that good stuff that you gave me too. That's the first thing I do, and I forgot to tell you that. But what I'll do is I'll do my initial warm up and then I'll start singing, but I won't sing full blown pedal all the way down. I'll sort of start off a little lighter, after stretching everything, and then eventually go into it. Now, I might work on a couple or do a couple songs and then feel, I got to stretch out the higher registers, and I might stop what I'm doing, do some sirens, whatever I need to do, a couple more lip bubbles. Just basically at that point in time, when you sing every day, and for a good amount of time each day, you know where your voice is. You have a much better grasp of how strong you are, where your weaknesses are, and if I hit a weak point, I'll go, oops, pause, and then let me do some sirens over that area. Let me stretch out that area, get that a little bit, a little more warmed up. So you'll get a very good grasp as to where you are with your range. And also, Jamie, one thing I forgot to tell you, my consistency now, I am consistent, like almost, all the time. It's rare that I'm not consistent. Like Ben, you were saying, there's some days something just doesn't feel right. I've had those too. When I have days where it seems like something's off, it's because I'm slightly altering my technique and doing something incorrectly, and that was starting to bug me. So when I have a day where something's not right, I back up. And what I usually found was I either wasn't bearing down, I wasn't tightening my abdomen, or I was putting too much air out, because bottom line, I should be able to hit a dog squealer, a super loud wail, stick a lit match in front of my mouth, and that match is not going to go out. That's how little air it takes to do it. I mean, I almost have to exhale most of my air. I used to get a big old, gut full of air as if I was going down to retrieve a friggin' gold brick at the bottom of the sea or something, man. But I realized that's not what I want to do. I want to make sure most of that air is gone and just take, as Jamie says, micro breaths, bear down, tighten. And if I notice that something else isn't working, I'm pushing too hard. It does not take much effort at all once you're strong. Once that range is strong and once that range is there, it does not take much effort. So your first point, I'm trying to remember exactly what that was.
Yeah. I mentioned
resting.
Okay, yeah.
I used to think that was the key. I'll sing several days in a row, and then the day before the gig, I shouldn't really sing much. I want to preserve my voice. I done that before, and I sounded like garbage live. What I do instead, I make sure every single day that I do everything I need to do. Another problem I had is I spent too little time warming up, so it was, that sounded like garbage then too. But what I realized is sing as much as I can, give it a solid chunk. If I have a gig coming up, I might even do a little more than an hour to an hour and 15 every day. I want to make sure that I'm strong. I want to make sure that I'm warmed up so that the day of the gig, I'm there. And all I need to do is my normal warm-ups, my sirens, make sure the entire range is there, and then I'm good to go. But yeah, I mean, with this stuff, the consistency took a long time. And that's one thing I would tell all singers. If you're having, quote, an off day, look at what you're doing differently that day than you did the day before when you were spot on. I know one thing that works for me too. I have a little checklist. Okay, make sure that the placement, focus on placement, focus on not, the breathing, not taking in too much air, not releasing too much air. And it was always a technique, a slight altering of the technique that was throwing me off. And I think that's probably what it's going to be for most people. One other thing I forgot to tell you is, as soon as we started these shows and I knew I was going to be traveling, I immediately went to the gym. I can't stress enough, go to the gym, do weights, do cardio, and, do all of this stuff, because the better physical health that you're in, the easier it is to hit this stuff. So that's, bottom line.
Something that you said earlier, I don't know if this is quite the way you do it, but something that came to mind as you were talking about just using so little air whenever you're hitting really high notes. Something I've started doing personally is I'll inhale and then I'll exhale as, about like, I don't know, it feels like 2/3 or 3/4 of my air, and then I'll sing. And then I feel like it's just easier to not use too much air after doing that. And I don't, push out every little bit of air. I keep some in the tank, but for me it's easier to just not overdo it if there's not a lot in there. And then whenever I do breathe normally, then I have I don't exhale before singing. If I just do it normally, then I can tell if I'm overdoing it, because I know I can do it correctly because I did it with the less air, and then I do it again. Am I still using the correct amount of air? And so that's something that we've actually taught some people in the Vendera Vocal Academy on the Hangouts. But yeah, I think I don't know if that's quite what you were referring to.
That's great. As a matter of fact, strangely enough, I do that. It's like what I'll do, I inhale and exhale a couple of times as I'm bearing down and tightening. And what I've found is I can bear down, tighten, still inhale and exhale, but yeah, what I'll do is I'll exhale, I don't know, 50% of what I've taken in. When I exhale, I tighten and bear down. It's kind of like the exhalation allows me to lock into the bearing down and the tightening for some reason. So I totally agree with what you said. And then as soon as that's there, it's almost like it's mouth movements and just allowing the sound to start. That's all it is. And one thing that I found after, kind of getting to this point, I overthought vocals for my entire life. It's simple. I mean, it is so simple of a concept. It is tighten, bear down, tighten. You should not feel any exhalation at all. As a matter of fact, when I remember Jaime first started talking about it should feel like you're almost inhaling. The inhalation sensation is what it is. You almost feel like you should be slightly inhaling air, and it's weird because that is what it feels like. So if your gut's tight and you're feeling like it's slightly like an inhalation sensation going on, and you should be able to just wail. Now the biggest thing is what I realized is every single note from the Peter Steele typo negative Barry White notes all the way to the Gillette Malenko Matajevic notes, super high dog squealers. You don't have to give any more force. You give the same amount of oomph on the super high notes as you do mid-range, as you do low. The only difference is the placement. It should just feel like it's very thin and pointy almost when you're hitting that super high squealer. And I mean, when I realized that every single note is basically just in the placement of the roof of your mouth and just how you place the notes, I was like, it's this simple. It's this simple. It just takes forever to get there.
Hey, I gotta hop in and I gotta say this. I swear to God, I didn't give Gordon a sheet. It's like he's reading through Raise Your Voice. This, but this is a model student. Hey, we keep these podcasts around 30 or so. So I want to wrap this up with you telling really quick about this new album, where they can find it, your website, and let us know where people can come check you out.
Yeah, absolutely. Images of Eden. The album is called Soul Rise. It's on Pavement Entertainment. You'll find it pretty much everywhere. Go to imagesofeden.com. Amazon, every retailer, iTunes, everywhere you could possibly imagine. It's you can find it. But definitely check it out. It's got some high energy. It's heavy, but it's also very high energy, and there's a very positive sound and positive message, even kind of embedded within the heaviness of the album. So definitely check us out. Our next show right now, we are scheduled for October 25th, Tempe, Arizona, opening up for direct support for Stryper. As of right now, we're working on tour dates for 2019. We're going to be playing at the Éxodo Fest in Mexico. Next April, we've got a couple of dates on the main international stage. We've got one. I don't even want to say possible because I don't even know if it's there yet, but tour that we're working on. So definitely hit us up. Check out our video singles, Shield Me and Harvest Day, and give us a like.
Yes, love the band, love the voice. I love that you came on the podcast. Singers, this is what you can do with your voice. It's never over. Even if you think you don't have a shot, Gordon went through hell and back with his voice. He thought it was over. I'm not some miracle worker. I'm not the one who did this. I gave him the roadmap. He drove the road. He followed the road. And his voice bounced back to even better than it's ever been in his life. And the proof is in the pudding. You can hear it in his songs. So, Gordon, thank you for being on this podcast. I've been wanting to do one of these for a long time to show people that this stuff really works.
It does, and like I said, man, I was in a bad shape. I was in the red. I mean, far down in the red. You had to help me climb way out of the red, and not only did you get me in the green. I mean, it's just like I said, man, I never thought I'd be able to do what I can do now. So I will tell every singer, follow these instructions. You're going to stumble. It's going to take you a while. You're going to have to do trial and error. Just, if you're going down the wrong road, take a step back and reevaluate where you are, because you will get there if you are determined. This stuff works. I'm a product of it. And it's just that simple. And also, don't overthink it. I overthink everything, and overthinking it is when I started to go down the wrong path. It's that simple.
Good. Oh my goodness, I am just so inspired just listening to what we talked about so far, and so much of what you said, Gordon. I'm like, oh yeah, that's in Raise Your Voice, that's in Raise Your Voice, that's in Raise Your Voice, that's in the Academy.
I'm telling you, he had the book open. He's going, well, he's flipping the pages.
Like,
So let me mention placement.
Not at all, man. You know what it was? It just took a long time and Jaime, that was my problem, man. I'd take a step forward, and I would start to get comfortable. Then the next thing I know, my old habit would start to creep its way back in there. And I'm like, wait a minute, how come I can't do now what I did last week? But I finally got to the point that I know what I've got to do. It's simple. And Ben, like you said, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned about exhaling a little bit. And you just continue to bear down, and it's all about placement. And I think people it's human nature to try to put more force in the high notes, but you're just going to shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's very true. I mean, so like I notice I know we're trying to wrap up here all as I notice as I'm singing, whenever I start going for the higher notes and then I start feeling tired, I notice even in myself a tendency to like, oh, I'll just push a little more. But like, no, that's wrong. And so then I'm like, you know what? Okay, let's just relax. Let's just use a little less there. And that's when it comes out.
And the higher notes get a little bit thin. It's like, and Jaime, you basically said it's kind of like the notes go almost like to a point, like a guitar neck. They're easier to hit. As you go up the guitar neck, the higher notes are closer and closer together. So all you have to do is just I can't even describe it really, but just sort of get a little bit thinner, a little more lemon-faced, for lack of a better term.
That's why I think the voice is like a triangle. It gets a little thinner, but you can still stay big. You don't have to flip the falsetto. You can still stay in your full voice. You can write it all up. That's why we believe the vocal break can be erased. It's all one voice. We don't have to separate it.
And one thing too, Gillette used to say that if you feel underneath your chin, if you feel it start to get sore underneath your chin, that means you're doing something correctly. And I remember, I don't remember when it was, but it was within the last couple of years I started to feel that, and I go, whoa, what's going on here? Oh, yeah, Gillette said that. Okay, so note what you're doing because you're doing something correctly too. So that, and sometimes if there's a couple days that go by and I haven't been singing and I which I try not to do, then I start singing and I start to feel that. I'm like, okay, yep, there it is. That's always a good thing when you feel that.
Yeah, because I remember when we worked together, he's like, if they start to burn, stop, give it a minute. But it was always about you're working the muscles. So you're strengthening. So it is a good thing. You just don't overdo it in the beginning. All right, guys, been a great podcast. We're going to wrap this up. Again, check them out at imagesofeden.com. Gordon Tittsworth, one of my favorite students. I don't use that term loosely. I do have some favorite students, and I'll mention them. I'll promote them. Gordon, slap your video on my Facebook page and in the singing group if you have it. I can't remember. I've been so busy.
Yep, you got it. I'll throw it on there right now.
All my jet lagging like you, except yours is 3 hours. Mine's generally like 15 hours. So
some places where you have to be careful what you eat and drink, huh?
That's true. All right, guys. Well, I'm glad you listened to this podcast. We will see you again soon. Come on.
Open your eyes, you're not dreaming.